Hello. StreamYard says we are live. So I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live AMA with thoughtbot devs. It looks like we already have some people joining us live. So let us know in the chat if you can hear us okay, if you can see us. No trouble there. Say hi in the chat. That would be really nice for us to know if everything is going well. I think it is. We already have some comments here in the chat. And yeah, we are live. I am joining you all today. Oh, hello. We have Debashis. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Hello. Stephanie Kuroda say, where are people joining from? Stephanie is in New York. Yes, I am in BC, Canada. So everyone in the chat, please let us know where you are joining us. I have Fernando. Hello. We're so happy that you all are joining us. Yes, audio and visual are great. Thank you. That's really great to know. And Ignacio, hello. Hi, everyone. Yes, we are really happy to have you here. Vancouver. Awesome. I'm going to just go real quick about how today is gonna go and how the Q&A is gonna work. Oh, we have people from India and from Mexico. Cool. All over the world. So I am Stephanie. I will be your host today. And I'm also here with an amazing panel of my teammates and colleagues from thoughtbot. And if you know, and also if you don't know, what we do here at thoughtbot, besides writing blog posts and speaking at conferences and maintaining open source projects, we are a consultancy company. We help companies and new founders launch, build, create, and maintain tech products. And today we will be joining you just with a couple of our developers, but we also have designers, product managers, and more. And this live is actually part of our 20th anniversary celebration. Yes, 20 years of thoughtbot. You can go check out the link here on the video. We have other celebrations going on, and we just thought that having this space for us to give back to the community, have you asking us questions would be a great way to celebrate this milestone doing what we love, which is help the community and help from the community as well. I will like to, oh, hello from Calgary. Hey, Carol. I would like to introduce our panel real quick so you can know what type of questions you can answer, you can ask. So I'm Stephanie. I'm a senior developer in the Boost team, and I am in BC, Canada. And next, I will bring Svenja to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. My name is Svenja. I'm joining from Frankfurt, Germany. Usually I'm in Spain. And I'm a development team lead in the Fusion team. And I move on to Mateus.
Hey everyone, my name is Mateus. I'm a developer. I'm from Brazil. And if you want to ask any questions about Ruby or working remotely, you can ping me. Next up is Fer.
Hello, I'm Fer Perales from Guadalajara, Mexico, senior developer, part of the Boost team, especially in the support and maintenance team.
Hey everybody, I'm Jimmy. I'm a senior developer on the Ignite team at thoughtbot, and I am joining y'all from Golden, Colorado. Mina?
Hi all, my name is Mina. I am a senior developer with Mission Control, which is our DevOps and SRE team, and I'm joining you all from Chicago. Next up is Lewis.
Hey, my name is Lewis. I'm the founder and sorry, that's Chad. I'm a development team lead. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina in the United States, and I'm on the Liftoff team. Coming up next is Remy.
Thank you, Lewis. Hello, everyone. I am Remy. I'm joining from Paris, France, and I'm a senior developer at Fusion. Up to you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Mike, he, him, normally in New York City, today joining from British Columbia. I see some of you are in Canada, so I'm joining from Squamish, British Columbia, if you know that one. I work as a principal developer on a team called Boost. That team helps grow projects that have already launched. And back to Stephanie.
Yeah, back to the beginning, but we're just getting started. So everyone, I almost forgot, but didn't. We also have 2 other people helping us out behind the curtains. We have our amazing moderator helping with the comments and with making sure that everyone will see the questions. So thank you, our moderator, and also Stephanie, who will be helping us out with the giveaway. So here's how it's gonna work today. You can drop your questions in the chat at any time. We already have some questions that people submitted in the form. So we are gonna get started with those, but feel free to drop your questions in the chat or ask follow-up questions on the questions that we answered. And for those who enter a question, we will do a giveaway at the end. And the giveaway is from our 20 for 20th standard edition ebook. It's a special curated collection of 20 posts from our blog. And it's a really nice ebook. So those who submit questions will be entered for the giveaway at the end. And without further ado, it's Q&A time. So we will keep looking at the chat. So drop your questions, but we have a first one, which was from Matt. So Matt submitted a question, which is, what is the most challenging and rewarding open source project you have worked on? Who would like to take that on? Oh, okay. Mike, I see your hand.
Sure, yeah, I can kick off an answer. So I worked on the Paperclip project for a number of years, and some real interesting things about it. One, very widely used. Lots of people had bug reports. Lots of people were looking at. Lots of eyes on it. Two, as a subset of that, we're like dealing with actual files. So Paperclip is a file uploading library, and so lots of like dealing with files is terrifying, and there was lots of like security issues that we had to deal with at all times. An interesting thing about Paperclip is how old it is. It's one of the earlier Rails libraries, and so we didn't know best practices when we were doing it, and so there's lots of like private methods that were actually public but should have been private, and so just like refactoring was terrifying because someone was always using our private methods. But it was, anyway, so that's why it was challenging. It was rewarding because it was a very widely used library, and every change we made did have an impact on the larger world. So yeah, that was a really fun project for that reason. Mateus, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I'm torn between contributions that I've done for Rails and one that I did for Ruby, but I guess I would pick Ruby in this case. I think it was for Ruby 3.1, I've merged a few PRs improving documentation, and that was a wonderful moment for me because like it was the first time I was contributed to a real programming language, and it was good to feel that feeling of giving it back, even if it was just a little bit. It was challenging because it's Ruby, it's the C code base, so I didn't have much experience with that, but yeah, it was totally worth it.
Nice. Yeah. I think, so I don't see any other hands raised, but I think for me, it was contributing to Rails. I didn't actually get any other PRs other than a documentation, but it is so scary because it's a huge code base, and it's weird to be working at something that you work every day. But it was also pretty interesting, and I learned a lot, especially how to contribute to a large open source project. I think the Rails core team did a great job with giving tools for people to get started. So that's my answer. All right.
May I go one more time? There's one more thing
Yeah.
I want to add, which is rather than listing specific names, a common thing that we do at thoughtbot, and perhaps those viewers also do this, is we need to use third-party libraries, and we'll find a bug in it. We'll find a missing feature in it. And so I love opening pull requests against third-party libraries just to improve them and improve the general ecosystem. I think that is the most rewarding contributions that I've made, really, is like the tangible ones that improve my life and everyone else's. And also some of the most challenging, because I'm like jumping into a foreign code base and debugging and navigating the community for that open source repo. And I think that's some of the more fun that we do.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Mike. Did I see Mina? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe echo something that Stephanie said, is that we think about open source contributions a lot about contributing code, but contributing documentation is also a really great way to get into contributing to open source. And my one and only open source contribution is to the Rails documentation as well. And like you said, Stephanie, it was really scary because it was such a big project. And at the time, it was also a very controversial change. So yeah, that was rewarding, but it was also my one and only.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for sharing that. I think we can let's go with one from the live chat, and then we will go to the forum. So we have one here from Tiago. Tiago is asking, as a consultant, how do you convince a client that pair programming is a good strategy? Oh, that's a good one. See, Louis?
Yeah, on my current project, we've done a lot of pair programming, and I just find it to be really, really efficient. And like, we write really clean, really good code. I know sometimes a client might be like, well, if two people are working on it, aren't you working half as fast if you were working on your own thing? And I think that you're actually working twice as fast. And the reason is just like, first of all, you stay focused more easily when there's someone else with you. Like, it's just a lot more easier to stay on the problem at hand. You also don't go down rabbit holes for too long because you're aware of the other person is there, and you're like, you know what? Let's fight this problem for 4 hours. Like, that's just not going to happen on a pairing session. You're going to try something. If you get stuck, you're going to bounce ideas off each other, and eventually you're going to say, like, let's try something else. You also catch a lot of like bugs in real time, and it encourages best practices too in terms of like a TDD approach. So I find it incredibly successful. And in terms of like delivering code, but also like that's what like thoughtbot is all about, teaching and learning. And like we upskill each other constantly through pairing. And the thing that I learned today from pairing is the thing that I'm going to use tomorrow on the client project and the next day and the next day and vice versa. So I love pairing so much.
Yeah, can I go as well? Hi. Yeah, so for example, for me, it's really rewarding. We also pair with developers from the client, so it's not always that they're only working developers from thoughtbot, but we also interact and have pairing sessions with developer from the clients, and that's quite helpful. Also to see for the client to see that it's faster actually.
Yeah, I come at it from a different perspective. Like because thoughtbot is not like comparison with Pivotal Labs, which was pairing all day every day. We're a little flexible on that, and so I personally don't come at it from a pairing by default strategy, but instead, what are the problems that pairing solves? And then two that come off the top of my head is knowledge silos, right? So where individual developers become the only people able to work on a portion of the code base. And pairing is a great way to share that kind of knowledge and distribute that load a bit more. And then sort of similarly is skilling up junior developers, which is often a task that we are asked to do, especially on the team that I'm on, which is Boost. And so pairing is sort of the fastest way to skill up a developer. And so typically when I'm trying to convince a client that pair programming is a good strategy, I'm actually instead problem solving a systemic problem that they have. There's knowledge silos, they have junior developers or something like that. And it's just one of the main suggestions that I'll have. And I try to come at it from an experimental approach of like, you have this problem, here's some things we can try. These are low effort. Let's give it a try. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, those were all really great contributions. And I see that pairing is a really good topic that people are really interested in. So I think I saw Mateus, Remy? Yeah. Can't hear you. Let me see if I can.
Here we go. Thank you. Yeah, in my case, I really like the fact that either it's a complicated topic or not, it's always the case to learn something from each other and also to share the knowledge. But most importantly, if we are working on something important or difficult, even if we are individual developers, it doesn't mean that we can't work as a team. Either it's with thoughtbot developers or developers at the clients. We just have tasks and features and bugs, and we just want to move forward as a team, basically. Matthias?
Yeah, I think another point of it is that we can get people are trying to get with code reviews some things that they could get better with pairing. So like Mike said, code reviewing helps share knowledge, but pairing sessions are much more effective on that. Also, building right the design decisions, you can try to help designing the code through code reviews, but it's harder to get the sense of all the code base while you're just reading that diff. So while pairing, you can do that again much more effective. And also it helps to build this sense of having a team and working together, which is something that companies should strive for. I know that pairing does not apply for every scenario. For example, if you're doing open source contributions, you might not be able to pair with the developer that is in a different time zone. So that doesn't apply for all cases. But talking about companies, I think it should be the default scenario.
Yeah, I really like the consensus here is, well, it makes us write better code, and at the end of the day, that's why we do what we do. So yeah, pairing. So pairing is a I see a follow-up question about pairing. So let's also talk about that one. Ray is asking how to make a good pair programming. Do you have any suggestions of materials to improve the experience? And I think that's a great question, because usually that's the main reason why we don't do pair programming that much. So I see a lot of hands popping up. Svenja, I think I saw your first.
I think Fur was before, but I can say not a story, not a material, but I think it's super helpful if you have a time frame from the beginning. So you say you want to pair for an hour, then to have the goals set, what do you want to achieve, and the way how you want to pair program. Like who wants to drive the session, and yeah, so that the expectations are clear.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of resources in our blog, but I think it's also important get to know the person you are pairing with. We usually, or what most pair programming guidelines tell you is like you have to switch between who drives in the session. But I've noticed that sometimes if I'm working with a less experienced, not driving at least the first 3 or 4 days, and that's okay. Also, there's people who don't really are, or they have troubles, or they don't want to communicate what they're thinking, and it's hard. So probably just trying to read the room and see if you have to go slower, or if you have to ask the person more actively, hey, what are your thoughts on this? That also helps. I think in general it depends on who are you pairing with, but if you take the time to learn about the working style of that person, you can do great things together.
Yeah, I think I saw Jamie as well. Jamie?
Yeah, I was just going to mention the tooling can make a huge difference. So, hopping on a quick pairing session with like a Google Hangout is sometimes not ideal once you really want to start kind of co-piloting what you're doing. So Tuple has been really useful, I found, in pairing sessions where you can kind of both work in one code editor or like a VS Code live share. Those are also great. Yeah, and then just echoing what others have said, like switching who drives, really kind of feeding on each other's strengths, being able to see, who is, really good at this part of the coding and that. It's kind of fun to see and feed off each other's strengths. And then something else I was thinking about is just like stepping back every now and then, making sure you're really centered on the problem after like an hour passes, and also going on a short break, getting some coffee really helps with that mental energy.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that also something that I wanted to add is, if you haven't done it, or it's not yet a culture where you work at, it's gonna go probably not so smooth for the first few experiences, because it's something new. But it can be also an opportunity to say, hey, I've heard about this. Some people are doing well with this. Let's try it out. We have shared some resources in the chat as well, because we have more resources on this topic, but also lower the expectations if you want to try it out, and they just say it's an experiment, let's see how it works, and then learn from your experiment as well. So yeah, so we have the thoughtbot.io/working together. And that was a really great topic. Thanks, everyone. I think I see Mike. No? Okay.
No,
good.
she just threw me up here.
Oh, hi, Nina.
Hi. I just want to really quickly boost a talk that was given by one of our fellow thoughtbotters, Stephanie Min, at RubyConf Mini last year. It's called Empathetic Pairing with Nonviolent Communication, and our moderator is going to share the link in the comments.
Awesome. Maybe we should have an ebook just with a curation of pair programming resources.
Nice.
Cool.
May I also jump in?
Yeah.
I think some additional thoughts on pairing is having a structure is useful. And I bet this is mentioned in the talk in all the documentation that we're sharing. But having a structure is useful, and I'm a fan of the ping pong structure, where, and this is very much tied in our test-driven development culture, which we're also thrilled to talk about if you want to ask questions about it. One person writes a test, and then the other person makes the test pass, and then that person writes a test, and the first person makes the test pass, and you pass this back and forth. It can be a fun game. When I pair with other principal developers, I try to give them the most challenging test to make pass, and then they try to do the same back to me. So you don't have to do it with that. But having that kind of game kind of makes things go even faster, and it sort of pairs alongside and augments test-driven development, which is quite nice. Another thing on the topic of pairing is you can think of pairing in two different models. One is, again, this is what Pivotal Labs did, was the time-based model, where you say, we're going to pair on our work for this block of time. And no matter what you're working on, you are pairing on it. And this could be things like reading your email or like responding to pull requests, comments, or whatever. But it could also just be dedicated time focused to a task. And then the other model is pairing on a task or a project. And that's often what people start with, is pairing on a task. And I find sometimes people struggle with that. They will forget to pair, or they'll say like, oh, this task is not worth pairing on. And if you run into those problems, I do recommend trying the time-based approach instead, and setting aside a standing hour a day where you and another person pair on whatever it is that you're working on. And this can help you get into that habit better. That's it from me.
Nice. Well, I am also learning a lot because I have heard about the ping pong. I've also watched the video on Upcase, and I really like the fun aspect of it. But there's always still lots of things to learn. So thank you, everyone, for sharing your perspectives and experiences. Let's jump a little bit to another topic. Yeah, so we have one from Ignacio. And Ignacio is asking, how do you approach to add new Rails features like import maps, etc., in your current or future contract projects for your clients? That's a great question. So I think that we can answer this talk from the Boost side of it, but I think that would also be nice to have from either Ignite or Liftoff to answer that one. Who would like to get started? Louis? Oh, Fur? Yes.
Okay, yeah, I was good. Well, that I think usually for new clients, again, probably Ignite people can tell you more details, but I think we go with the Edge thing. Pretty much any project starts with Rails 7 and the latest version, and probably they're using import maps. But I can talk from the support and maintenance perspective. Sometimes we get projects that were created 7 years ago, so we have to get them updated. The approach we take is we usually go for the most critical parts, pretty much upgrade Ruby, upgrade Rails, and for the features, that depends because we have a limited amount of time and budget for the team, so probably it's not the best use of the client budget to go just like, okay, let's import maps because it's the newest thing. Sometimes we try to delay those upgrades. For example, there are projects that we're still using paperclip, even though we could move to active storage, but we don't really have a reason. So that's a point of view for support from support and maintenance. We try to keep the things that are working unless we have a good reason to upgrade. But that might be different for another team.
Yeah. Has someone from the Boost team? I have recently worked on MVPs, and it's such a weird experience to be working on Rails 7 apps, because I'm so used to be working on Rails 5 or 6. But yeah, I saw Mateus.
Yeah, I'm working on the Boost team, which basically mostly works with existing projects. And in my experiences so far, I haven't touched import mats at all. So most people are probably just using Webpacker or at this point. So what I've been doing is mostly converting either that to Packer, I think is the name of the new gem, or ES build, which is very good because it's much faster. So I think companies are doing that mostly from the point of view of not using a deprecated library or to improve the developer experience, because ES build is so much faster than Webpacker and much simpler as well. So that's the point of view I can give you from the existing large projects we've handled.
Nice. I see Mike.
Yeah, I would gladly go, but I was hoping someone from the Igniter Liftoff team would jump in, but I can also talk about what they do. And for those who don't work at thoughtbot, we have different teams that work on different stages of project. So Ignite is very much an early stage, early stage prototyping kind of situation. Jimmy, let me know if I got that wrong. Liftoff kind of takes it from there and builds out a larger MVP, typically in Rails. The Ignite doesn't necessarily work in Rails. They're often at like lots of other tooling, lots of no-code solutions. Liftoff takes it from there and builds it out into a Rails app. And Boost, you can think of as the next step of maintaining that thing. And Mission Control is in the background of all of this, making sure all the server pieces are glued together. In the past, I've worked on Liftoff style projects. I used to be part of the Liftoff team, and the decision making there was often what are the fewest experiments we can make that will allow us to try new things and still deliver. Like if everyone on the project had never worked with Rails 7 before, then maybe they would try import maps, but not some other new features. This would often extend out beyond Rails, right? So like maybe we know everything that's going on in Rails, but we want to try MongoDB. That would be exactly one experiment, and we would not add other experiments onto that code base. That's typically the more moderated approach we would take. While I have the floor, I also want to address another angle at this, which is, so from the Boost team side, we're working with existing projects, and so we often have to talk to the client about prioritizing these kinds of upgrades or trying to add new features. And so we would come at some angles to come out at this are from how can we force this, essentially. Like, so security upgrades is an example. So we have to keep Rails up to date for security reasons. And Rails will sometimes deprecate stuff. And so we would have to help the client prioritize the Rails upgrades. Another angle that we can approach this from is hiring. If they're trying to hire Rails developers and they have a Rails 3 code base, hiring is just really tricky. And so if they can say, like, we use import maps, we use all the latest features, then it's easier to attract talent that way. So that's it from me. Jimmy, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, on Ignite, we don't use Rails that much, which is sort of, what you don't really think of initially when thinking about thoughtbot, but we have been using a lot of JavaScript frameworks. So, React, Next.js. And something this made me think of is like, well, a lot of clients come to us to build MVPs. Like Mike was saying, they kind of start on the Ignite. And sometimes those clients come back to maybe build a little bit on top of that MVP and add some new functionality. So something I thought of that we've done recently was working with Next.js. They just released a new major version like Next.js 13. So we had a project on, I think, 11 or 12, but the team kind of saw that new version and some of the new features. I think a big one was moving from their page-based router to their app router structure. So we took that opportunity to upgrade to 13, that existing project, and that kind of enabled us to explore some of that new functionality and test the waters and get more familiar with it for the next project that comes by. And something else that's been really helpful to just keeping the project up to date and secure is like Dependabot on GitHub. That's been great. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts from Ignite's point of view.
Thank you, Jamie. I really like that question because I think it also goes along the lines of, okay, how do we build maintainable software while shipping products? I think that's the basis of the question. So thank you, Ignacio. I think let's go to one of the first questions real quick. I think the Bashis asked why thoughtbot stopped regular videos on Upcase. So I wasn't here when that stopped. So I will leave that to someone that was at thoughtbot when that happened. But all that I can say about Upcase is that the videos are still relevant and we still watch them until today. We have some watch parties where we watch the videos. So although we stopped, they are still really relevant and they are free. But that said, who was here when...
Hi.
Yeah, Mike.
For those in the audience, I'm the second most senior employee at thoughtbot. I've been here 15 years. So I do not have, so I'm not going to give an official answer. I am going to give the answer of someone who was around at the time. And so, yeah, Upcase, so the history of Upcase was our education platform. And the history of how it began is we originally had thoughtbot Learn. We turned it into classes. We had in-person classes. And so, and then we eventually moved them online so that we could reach a larger audience and have the in-person classes are very expensive. So we wanted people to have more access. And so it was sort of a business decision there were a few things that went into it. We were struggling to find. Wait, hold on. There's official wording. I want to make sure that I'm not contradicting it. Yes. Okay. Great. So we wanted to focus on. We as employees at thoughtbot wanted to focus on the consulting work we were doing. We wanted to focus on actually programming and learning, and we found it difficult to do that while also making videos. And so, because video is a very time-consuming process. So instead, we want to focus our education back on things like blog posts, which are easier to write. And then we have the podcasts, and we try to get our knowledge out in general. And so all of that is to say, Upcase is free. Because we still want the knowledge to be out there, and we want everyone to know. But it making Upcase came at the expense of us learning, and so this is sort of how we ended up with the state where we are. Hope I didn't say anything that was unofficially wrong. That's it.
If you did, I trust you, Mike. You are the person that I always ask thoughtbot questions. So thank you for giving the context. Yeah, so we also dropped I think I had it at some point. There is a blog post talking more about the decision. So yeah, that one, thank you. And thank you for your question. Does anyone have any thoughts about that, or can we go to the next one? Okay. So we also had another one from the forum. Well, let me see if I can find you. Yeah, thank you. Oh, our moderator is amazing. So we have a question from Juan. What is the key skill you need to work on in your company? And yeah, so that is a great question. I think, okay, I get started with that one. So I think that the main skill is communication and be in trust that when you ask for help, you are doing that because, you know, we are not supposed to know everything, even though we have tons of resources and an amazing pairing program, pair programming culture. Sometimes you are still working on something you don't know. You don't know, or you have too many options and you don't know what to decide. So knowing how to communicate all of that and how to ask for help, and also communicating through written channels. I think that's honestly the basis of whatever else we do, because communication is key. And I think we would be in a lot of hard trouble if we didn't put that much emphasis on communicating. So that's my take on it. Does anyone? Okay. I think I saw Mike. Yeah.
Yes, but also I'm talking a lot, so someone else should go.
Oh, okay.
I can jump in.
Louis? Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I think just to answer the question more directly, I mean, like, obviously, you know, knowing Rails like really good would be a really good entry. If you're just talking about like literal technical skills, we've also seen like React Native is like our sort of our primary mobile direction right now. It's at some point in the past. I actually joined as a native mobile developer, which was kind of funny because I almost didn't apply because the ad at the time said knowing Rails is a must. I'm like, well, I'm out of here. But fortunately, I was able to join as a mobile developer and then eventually became a Rails developer. But to echo more of what Stephanie was saying, because I think there's a lot of developers with a lot of different skills, and just having those skills like won't get you hired at thoughtbot. I think the communication, I think being vulnerable is really, really important. There are so many people that know so many things, and like I've been like in Slack and people are having a conversation and it's this giant thread. And, you know, I remember like large periods of maybe even last year where I was like, wow, I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't even know what they're debating. And being able to say that, like, let alone weighing in, understanding like what the question is, like takes time. And it takes, you know, going back to pairing, being vulnerable there and saying, I don't know what that is. Can you tell me about it? Or doing that, you know, in a pull request review. I think being vulnerable is like a really key part of at least being successful here. And like, I think it's one of the things that we hire for. A couple people have also mentioned we have, there we go. There it is. Our values. Read that. That's better said than I ever could.
Love, read that. Mina?
Echo that. Read the values. That'll probably say a lot. Also, yeah, like being vulnerable and being open to trusting. Like trust is one of our values, and to me, one of the like most valuable values is trusting. Like that when you are vulnerable, your teammates will have your back. And like technical skills, we're all good at different things and many different things. So like I feel like technical skills is not necessarily kind of like the focus when you are talking about like what key skills you need to work at thoughtbot. Like for example, I was hired onto a team as a Rails developer to a team that does DevOps and SRE. I knew nothing about either of those things when I joined this team, but the team allowed me to come in and like learn from them, because those are the things that I wanted to go into and get better at. So the reason I'm here is like technical skills might not matter as much.
Yeah, thank you, Mina. Does anyone also have other thoughts to share on that one before we move to our final one? I think we'll have one final question to discuss because it's almost the time. Wow, it was a lot. Okay, so I think we had another question from the form. Okay, here it goes. Awesome, thank you. And the question is from Teresa. What are the challenges of working remotely? Mateus?
The elephant in the room is time zones. I think that's the first thing people think. And it's in fact, like if you're not in the US and if your time zones are not close to US, that might make your life harder. I say that because our clients are, at least on the Boost team, are mostly from the US. So hopefully my time zone is not that different from like Eastern time. So it's not a problem for me, but that's why it's important to rely on written communication and async communication as much as possible. I think that's good because it allows people to read stuff when they are able to do that, and they have time to really that sink in and think about that discussion. And also there's a history that you can track. If you're doing lots of like hangout meetings and ad hoc meetings, all of that conversation is mostly lost if you're not in that meeting at that point. So if you're doing a presentation, if you're doing a meeting, and make sure that you record that so people can watch the recording later. Also, there are another sides of it, like not being a native English speaker and cultural difference, but I think I'll let all of for my fellow developers to say their point of views.
Yeah, for me.
I completely agree that time zones are really challenging. It's also a very, very good opportunity to meet people from a lot of places. It enabled thoughtbot to hire and to have clients in so many countries. So we are meeting a lot of different people, different skills, different personalities. And I haven't been at thoughtbot for a long time, maybe 8 or 9 months, but I can see that this change have completely changed the company and really embraced the need for communication, but also the willing to really have a very diverse team.
Hey, Jamie, Louis, and Mike. Jamie first.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, like on a more personal level, sometimes I've struggled with that work-life balance. It's kind of easy to just like go into your screen and live there for a while. If there's no separation, like you don't have that commute in the morning and the afternoon, or so I find that having kind of like a space at home dedicated for work and focus, there can be like more than one, have really helped. And having the extra time from working at home, I've found it like super helpful to just get outside often and go on like short walks. So yeah, a few thoughts.
Yeah, for me, when I joined thoughtbot, we still had physical studios, but it was interesting because all my clients were always somewhere else. And a lot of the times the team I was working with was from other studios as well. So even back then, I was on calls like for meetups, and I'm sorry, for stand-ups or sync-ups, for doing the work. Like we would pair remotely. But what I miss about like being in a studio is just the casual sort of everyday socializing that you get to do, the going out to lunch on Fridays. And thoughtbot has devoted a lot of effort to recreating that through in-person events. We have our annual summit, and then each of our groups has a week-long-ish event where we all get together, and that really helps. And yeah, I still miss the day-to-day, but I also like not having the traffic. So, that's a lot of extra time I get back in my day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think some things to add, and everyone said really great things so far. So I'm really just augmenting everything that's been added. That one thing that we struggled with before we were 100% remote was this sort of hybrid situation where like you could work from home if you wanted, you could work remotely if you wanted, and hybrid, like we talked about how like it did put people at odds with, like, everyone who was together had an advantage, but it's true, is what we've learned, and being 100% remote has actually helped everyone be at the same disadvantage and allow us to build on top of that. People talked about documentation before. Mateus talked about how like everything that happens should be recorded. This is a practice we had already because we were consultants. We kept READMEs up to date, and we kept all documentation up to date so that we could hand things off and hand things back to the client. And this ended up being amazing for going remote. And I do also want to recommend it in the other direction. Even if you're not working remotely, keeping your documentation up to date is an important thing to do, and it really just helps everyone collaborate better. So I recommend that. Those are the only things I want to add. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I think it's we are all learning how to work remotely, so I think this is a really good question. Thank you, Teresa. All right, everyone, we are almost at the top of the hour, so we will start wrapping up. There were some questions that we didn't have the time to answer, but I will see later if anyone would want to write a blog post or do a summary of the questions that we answered here. So if we didn't answer your questions, or if you also want to send a question to an individual one here, we have our socials in our headlines here, so you can reach out and send questions to someone directly. But watch out our blog posts. Maybe we will write one answering the other ones that we didn't have the time today. And before we go, just want to put the slides again because it's the giveaway time. Like we mentioned in the beginning of the session, those who submitted a question either through the form or here during the live, everyone were entered into our giveaway. And yeah, right. You also can look at thoughtbot.com/team, so you can find each one of us there if you want to send individual questions. And the winner is Matt D. So Matt, congrats. Woo, you won our 20 ebook. Enjoy. Please send us an email at info@thoughtbot.com so we can send the copy for you. And congratulations. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you for sending your question. And thank you, everyone, for showing up, submitting your questions. I also want to say thanks to everyone who joined. We have people from, BC to Europe here. So lots of people from different time zones. Thank you for our moderator and Stephanie for helping with the giveaway too, and Lindsay for helping with the landing page, the emails. This was really a team effort. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. If you want to also get a copy for yourself, you can go to thoughtbot.com/20th. That's the curated collection of blog posts. And I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Bye.